صلى الله عليك يا سيدي ويا مولاي يا رسول الله وعلى آلك المظلومين صلى الله عليك يا سيدي ويا مولاي يا أبا عبد الله يا مظلوم يا غريب كربلاء لعن الله الظالمين لكم يا ليتنا كنا معكم سادتي فنفوز فوزا عظيما صلوات Brothers and sisters, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Before we begin the lecture, can we please recite Fatiha for our marhameen after Salat ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. For the last few nights, we have been discussing death. 2 nights ago, we discussed the concept of death, and yesterday, we discussed the journey to the grave. And the question that follows logically is, okay, what happens after we get to the grave? Where do we go then? Do we start with heaven and hell? Most of us have heard the word Barzakh, and an often question asked is, what is Barzakh? And so, the journey of the human being is set out in multiple worlds. There's a beginning, middle, and end. And right now we're in the middle. There was a beginning to us in another world. And right now we're in the middle, but there are going to be more middles to come. So the world we go to after the grave is another part of the middle. The afterlife happens after Judgment Day, when everyone is resurrected and the judgment occurs. But from now till then, when everyone dies, they go to another realm, if you want, or another world, called the Barzakh. Now, the different realms that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created, we have the Jabarut, the Malakut, and the Mulk. The Jabarut is the seed of all realms, and the Malakut is the spiritual realm. And the Mulk is this realm. Mulk, like the kingdom, the dominion of physicality. And in the realm of Malakut, the place we started with before we got to the Mulk, we were in a state of witnessing. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He asked all of us, Alastu bi rabbikum? Am I not your Lord? And we all said, Bala shahidna. Everyone said that. And we were in a state of witnessing, and then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He put that Malakuti spirit, our true Malakuti self, into the Mulk, which we are in right now, into this vessel, our bodies. And it's just like putting the bird into the cage. And usually when you let the bird out of the cage, it flies out, it doesn't even look back. There's no going back. And so at death begins the journey of flying out of the cage. Just like the bird, we don't look back. But we go into another world outside of our bodies. We leave our bodies behind. And so, this place of Barzakh is a place of mystery for all of us. And it will manifest what we have chosen to do in this world. And that's why Imam Sadiq alayhi salam says, مَا أَخَافُ عَلَيْكُمْ إِلَّا الْبَرْزَخْ. I am not fearful for you except for the Barzakh. Imam Sadiq alayhi salam is saying he's worried. So he's worried about you and what's going to happen to you in the Barzakh. So that kind of implies that this may be a scary place. What is this place? Now the word Barzakh is translated into English wrongfully as purgatory. In Christianity, purgatory is the place where the evil souls go, whereas in Islam, Barzakh is where the evil or the good souls go. It's kind of like the waiting room before the afterlife. And it happens on this earth. It's still on earth. But Barzakh itself means barrier. بَيْنَهُمَا بَرْزَخٌ لَا يَبْغِيَانِ. It's a barrier, just like in the Quran when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala describes the two seas. مَرَجُ الْبَحْرَيْنِ يَلْتَقِيَانِ, and there's a barzakh between them. So the two seas do not mix. This barzakh is called a barrier because it is the barrier between, if you want, this physical world that we live in and the spiritual world that the dead go to. And within a barrier, you cannot go forward or go back. People will say, Rabbi irja'un, take me back, I want to go back. But there is no going back. Kalla. There's no going back. It's a barzakh. It's a barrier. And so there's no going forward or back. Sallallahu ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. Once again, for Sayyidah Fatimah Zahra alayhi salam. A third time for Hassan and Hussain alayhi salam. And so this place of Barzakh is the world of meaning, as we mentioned. Right now we're in the world of sensory, of hiss. We are moved by our senses. But all the choices that we make in this world, they don't leave us. They imprint on us. Everything counts. So as soon as you move into that world, everything turns into meaning. So even the way you look, although you will still be recognizable to the people who know you, there will be a form of beautification or deformation depending on the choices that you made. So if you were a person of patience, or if you were a person of tawakkul, that has a certain appearance to it, and that's going to imprint on you, and your soul will show that. And if you were a person of anger, and if you were a person of envy, that would also show on you. The choices you make, they don't leave you. They go with you to that place. And the deeds, whether good or bad, also manifest themselves. So you will find creatures in this next world. Some of them with perfume and some of them hideous. And they will say, don't you know us? I'm the sin that you committed on this day. Or I'm the charity that you gave on this day. Right? They have a certain look to them. Even the surahs of the Quran have an appearance to them. And they would, I'm Surah Al-Rahman, I'm Surah Yasin. For example, if you were to read those surahs, if you had a relationship with them. So everything counts in this world. And this is all very real. It's realer than what you live right now. In fact, what you live right now could be considered the dream world. That world is the real world. Now, one would ask, why would Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala create a barzakh before Judgment Day? Why can't we just go to Judgment Day? Well, perhaps if you think about it, if we were to go directly straight to Judgment Day, it would be too much of a shock for us. When we are given the opportunity to go into Barzakh, into this realm, this real realm, we have a chance to disassociate from the physical body and truly ponder over the creation of God. Because in the beginning, you still think that your body is you. As soon as you leave, we mentioned this yesterday, when they're doing the ghusl, it's makruh to pour hot water onto the body because the spirit still associates itself with the body. And that's why the angels make it watch as it's being buried. And as the body decomposes, of course, those certain pious individuals, their bodies do not decompose. But the angels make it watch so that it can disassociate from this and slowly understand this new world, so that it's not such a shock when it gets to Judgment Day. Just like when we were in the wombs of our mothers and we came into this world and we grow, but even at a certain age, I would venture to say many of us right now, the youthful ones, we don't know so much about the world. And if we studied geography more, if we traveled a bit more, we would know so much more about it. Right? And we would ponder over the creation. would wonder more about the world. And likewise, when you go into that world, and so you can mix with those spirits and souls that you see in that world and understand. And this is a long journey, brothers and sisters. It's very, very long, Barzakh. It's a long journey. And if you think life is long, we haven't tasted the half of it. We're still in the middle of our journey. And we're going to a further part of the middle of our journey. So these worlds, they overlap each other. Barzakh is also known as Alamul Mithal, which Mithal literally means imaginary. Kind of like an imaginary world, but it's a real world. So this world is called Dunya. And Dunya comes from like Dani or Adna, the lowest, the abased one. It's the lowest world. Because only in Dunya can the creation disobey Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Because of the physicality and the limitations of this world, there's a clash. And so in this world, sins occur against God. And that's why it's the dunya. And Alamul Mithal is above this world. So we have parallel worlds that are happening right now. And all the people that we know that have died, the close ones and the people of the past, right now they're in Barzakh. Right now. And so when we do read them the Fatiha, that's why I like to make it a habit of reading the Fatiha for them during the majalis. Because a coolness comes to them. Because once they're there, that's it, their account is closed. What we do for them, though, still counts for them. They still feel something when we have acts and we dedicate it to them. And so if you want to imagine it, a sheikh once said, imagine it using the analogy of the onion. Whereas think of the dunya in the middle, and the onion, it has layers upon layers, right? So it's layers upon layers happening at the same time. So don't think of it as like lines, more of like a circle. And the circle begins, we start at the beginning, as I said, we're in the middle right now, so we're at the bottom of the circle. We went down in the descent. We went from the malakut into the mulk, and now we're at the bottom. And now the time is coming for the ascent, to go back up. The ascent is coming slowly. Going into Barzakh is the beginning of the ascent. And if someone was to ask what was the point of that, I would use the analogy of the race. When people come to race and they're at the starting line, and they race and they come back to the finish line, it's the same line. It's the same line. We call it starting line and finish line. Something was to be gained during the race. Likewise, during this journey, something was to be gained. There is a point to the descent and the ascent of self-discovery and growth and reaching perfection through the ma'rifah and ubudiyyah of God. Sallallahu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. And that's why, just to touch upon this, yesterday someone mentioned, and we're going to talk about this after the lecture as well during the Q&A. Someone mentioned that it's not fun to come to the mosque. And I don't blame you sometimes for thinking that. I mean, is it supposed to be fun? I asked. Because really and truly, the way people have made us think in this society now is we are here for entertainment. We are here for fun, and we are random events, right? We are just these machines on this planet in the middle of a random solar system, in the middle of a random galaxy of billions of galaxies. So you don't really matter. So it's okay. So waste your time watching TV, right? I'm sitting down with a movie and I can't move for 2 hours. 2 hours, I won't move. Wait, I have to see what happens. Right? And watching teams kick a ball around. Right? And we spend so much time doing this, and this is what our life becomes about. And it's okay, there's no problem. Right? There was a survey in America done where it was found that children watch TV 40 to 60 hours a week. A full-time job. Right? 40 to 60 hours a week. And the normal service worker, 30 hours a week. And the managers, 20 hours a week. And the supervisors, 10 hours a week. But when it came to the CEOs of those companies, they would watch 2 to 3 hours a week. And 50% of that material was related to the fields that they work in. To show that the people who make a difference in this world, they're not just sitting around watching television. Right? Because they want to make us feel like we're nothing. They told you you're nothing. You're a random event. And what's going to happen here is just a meteor is going to come down. It's going to destroy the world one day, perhaps. Just like the dinosaurs were wiped out, we'll be wiped out. And that's all there is to it. So let's have fun. Right? Let's be entertained. And because that's what life's about. But it's not. There's something to gain. There's something to gain from the journey. And that's why we are on this journey. Sallallahu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. And so there's something to be gained from this journey. There's a reason why we took the journey of descent to go up on the ascent now. When all these things were made for us, even these angels, al-malaika al-muqarrabun, for us. Right? Azrael is there to take our souls. And Gabriel is there to bring revelation to us. And Israfil is there to blow the trumpet for our judgment day. All these things for the insan. All these things so the insan can reach his reason for being. And we are just to be entertained. And that's not what it's for. Lahu la'b is not what we're here for. We're not here just to waste our time. There's a serious journey going on. And if you want to be blinded from that, it's your journey. So it's your choice if you want to do that. But your journey is going to end without a result. And after you went through all these worlds, is that worth it really? I mean, is it really worth it to waste all that time and energy spent going through all these worlds so you can reach this amazing potential that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created for the insan? But we just want to be entertained by it. And so Barzakh is that place where it's a time to dissociate from your body. So you begin to understand that this was a journey all along. But if we find out about Barzakh now, and we prepare accordingly from now, and we have this relationship with death, then once we get there, we'll be ready for this world. And even ready for Judgment Day. Because if you've arrived safely to Barzakh, that means, inshallah, you're going to be safe on Judgment Day. So really and truly, you want to make this reaching Barzakh a priority, to reach it safely, to understand it before you get there, to know what this place is about. Now this realm in Barzakh, it's on earth, and the barrier is between us and them, but it's not a material place. It's not material, yet it's on earth, so it has some material qualities to it. So there are things like width and height and length, but the forms, I couldn't tell you how they are. We can only go by what the hadith and revelation tell us, which is limited, but actually it's a lot more than most other religions know about what's going to happen after death. Islam tells us a lot more than other religions. And so there will be some kind of form. And to give you an example, if you look into the mirror and you see your own reflection, but the reflection doesn't have your weight in it. If you are happy or sad, the reflection is not happy or sad. Right? You're the one that's happy or sad, but your reflection shows how you look. So if you want, you could use this example of the mirror, of your reflection in this alamul mithal or barzakh, this barrier that we go into, and death is the piercing into this barrier. There have been several stories about Barzakh and so many narrations about this other world. There was an alim once in Mashhad, and he was sitting down watching as the people brought in a coffin into the maqam of Imam Rida alayhi salam. Anyone who's been to ziyarah has seen it. When they bring a dead body, just before they bury it, they take it to the Imam to bless the body, right? To do tabarruk and then bring it to bury it. So this alim was watching this, and he narrates that he had a mukashafa. He could see the reality of what's going on, and he saw a rabid dog on the top of the coffin as they brought it into the maqam. When they went into the shrine of the Imam, the dog came off and waited outside. They went inside and they blessed the coffin, but when they brought the coffin back out, the dog went back up onto the coffin. So that dog must have been a manifestation of something that man or woman have done in their lives. And it went with them into their grave. It waited outside when he went to the Imam. It gave him a break. But when he came back out, so these things are very real. You could say that that realm is even more intense than this realm. It's called the Alamul Mithal, and it's a spiritual realm, but that existence is more intense than this existence. This is the lowest existence. And so pleasure and pain has a greater capacity in that world. So you will feel more pleasure and more pain in that realm. Some associate it with the dream world when we dream, and that isn't entirely wrong, but it's not 100% true either. I mean, you guys know when you dream, sometimes it feels so real. You wake up with the effects of the dream. Sometimes your neck's hurting you. The pleasures and pain that you feel in your dream, you wake up with them. Sometimes you almost can't distinguish between reality and your dream. And you know when you be dreaming the whole night, yet when you wake up, you're having trouble remembering even 10 seconds of your dream? That's how Barzakh is. So when you go to Barzakh, you would think that I was alive, this whole world was a dream. They'll ask you, how long were you alive for? You would say a day or half a day. All this that we have lived, all our accomplishments, all of our goals, all of our feelings, a day or half a day. It's like when we dream. When all those things happen in your dreams, for hours we dream and we can barely remember, it will be like that. And you know when you wake up sometimes and you want to go back to sleep, you know, I didn't get enough sleep. And you turn the snooze on, turn the snooze off. Right? It's the same thing. When you get to Barzakh, you want to go back, but you can't. So you can associate with the dream world. Dreams, they have different... I mean, I'm not into dream interpretation so much, but there are different kinds of dreams. The first one being the dreams of the prophets and the Imams, which are visions. They could be divine visions. And some very, very pious individuals can have certain types of these dreams too. The second one is the dreams of the Mithali self. The self of Barzakh. Your real self. So when we said yesterday that when you die, that when you sleep, every time you sleep, your soul is taken away. And when you wake up, your soul is given back to you. And one day it will not be given back to you. When you sleep and your soul is taken away, sometimes it travels through these realms. And sometimes the jinn begin to play with your spirit because it doesn't know about this world. It's unfamiliar with the Barzakh, and so the jinn take advantage of it. But Imam Sadiq alayhi salam says they can never truly hurt a mu'min. They will play around with your spirit, but you will come back. But sometimes if you have certain nightmares, don't be surprised if certain creatures had been playing about with your spirit in that world. So sometimes those visions or dreams that you have are happening in the Mithali world. But not 100% because it's still connected to the physical. It still comes back. That's why on the third level of dreams, for example, when you eat something or when you think of something or when something's on your mind, you dream about that thing. Or it's connected to that. So if you eat just before you sleep, you have certain types of dreams. So it's still connected to the physical. But there is an element of the Mithali self. Things happening with the Mithali self in that dream. Sallallahu ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. There's a story of Allama al-Majlisi, the one who compiled Bihar al-Anwar, a famous book of various volumes of ahadith for the Shia, and his student Shaykh al-Jazairi. And Allama al-Majlisi used to live a life where he had several different houses and even servants. And his student Shaykh al-Jazairi, he used to be against this. And they made a pledge to each other that when the first one dies, let him come and visit the other in his dream. Because those in Barzakh, by the way, they can still access us. We can't access them, but they can access us. They can still see us. Those people who have died. And we're going to talk about that at the end of the lecture, inshallah. So they told each other, let's visit the other in the dream. Because as we said, that can still be, it can still have an element of the Mithali self in it. And so Allama Majlisi is the one who passed away first. And Shaykh Jazairi, when he came and was reading the Quran, at his grave, and he fell asleep and he had the dream, and Sheikh al-Majlisi came to visit him in the dream. And he told him, so what's happening where you are right now? How is the Barzakh? What's going on? And by the way, this story it can be found as a footnote in Bihar al-Anwar, if anyone wants to see it. So he asked, how is the Barzakh? What's happening there? And how was it you going there? So Allama Majlisi tells him, my son, when I was at my deathbed and I felt this immense pain, a man came to me dressed in noble clothes, and he put his hand on my toes, and he told me, how is it? Has the pain eased? And as he brought his hand above and brought it to my chest, I felt all the pain leave me. All the pain left me. I didn't feel any more pain in my illness. Yet, when I turned to my side, I saw my body on the floor and all the people mourning over me. And so I realized I had come out of the body. But I saw all these people mourning over me, and I told them, now you come to mourn over me? Where were you when I was alive? You were too busy to come and see me. And so, when I was taken to my grave, and I was asked the questions, Ya Muhammad al-Baqir, that was his name. What did you prepare for a day like this? And he would recount his deeds, and they wouldn't be accepted, but one turned out to be accepted. And it was the one where, when one day he was walking in the marketplace and he saw a believing man being harassed by other people whom he owed money. And so they were making fun of him and picking on him and beating on him. And so he defended him and stopped them. And he paid off the man's debts because he was a man of wealth. And he took the man home and clothed him. And he took care of this man. And this was the deed that was accepted. So Allama Majlisi ends up telling Shaykh Jazairi that you were against me for living a life of wealth, yet if I did not have that wealth, I could not have helped this man who was my key to having a spacious room in the Barzakh. And so sometimes that's also a lesson, that it's not about what you own. It's not that you don't own anything. It's that things don't own you. You can have things, but if you are attached to those things, if they own you, that's different. And of course, we're not people of extravagance. But in any case, this is a story from Allama al-Majlisi and him being in the Barzakh and what he experienced. And there are certain people who don't wait to go there. There are people who in this world, they are able to travel into different worlds. And so, there's a student of Sayyid Ali al-Qadi. Sayyid Ali al-Qadi, he is a legendary arif. A knower of God. A man of Gnosticism. And he is the teacher of Sheikh Bajat, if you have heard of him, or Allama Tabatabai. So he's the teacher of those two giants. So he was a great, great giant of Arifan. And Sayyid Ali al-Qadi, he had a student, and this student's son narrates this story where he received a letter from Sheikh Bajat. And Sheikh Bajat was known to be a very spiritual man. And the letter was asking a question: what is the hukum, what is the ruling for the one whom had left his body for 3 days and had missed salat? So what was he supposed to do with those salats? He had left his body. So it's someone who was able to leave. If you want to think of it as astral projection, if you want to think of it, he left his body. And perhaps he was able to pierce into this different world of Barzakh. And he was asking Sayyid al-Qadi about that. And Sayyid al-Qadi turned to his student and said, Sheikh Bashir is asking this letter as if it's from someone else, but he's actually asking about himself. So he himself had left his body for 3 days. And so there are people who don't wait. These people of great powers. But again, these people did not care about their powers. As soon as they cared, if any one of them cared about their powers, the power would go. It was never about the power, it was about this ubudiyya and ma'rifah of God. And I know people here would be skeptic about, come on, what are you talking about? You know, can these things truly exist? These karamat exist. But you know what I'm going to tell you just straight up? If you don't believe in them, you won't see them. If you believe in them, you'll see them. Okay? If you don't believe in karamat, you won't see karamat. But if you believe in them, you'll see them. And so, for any skeptics, I'm not going to try to justify it with any type of science. This is a world where everything is in tasbih of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, as the Quran said, لَكِنْ لَا تَفْقَهُونَ, but you don't understand them. So if you want to explain that to me scientifically, go ahead. But there's an unseen world that we cannot explain. And so these things are very real. And people are able to attain these levels in this existence. Sallallahu alaihi wa Muhammad. Now in our narrations, usually they say the word qabr instead of barzakh. And what you would think of straight away when you think of qabr is the grave that when we put the shroud on and we take them to the grave. And in the grave, when they are asked the questions, when Munkar and Nakir come, that's not happening in the fiqhi grave. The fiqhi grave is that grave that we go and perform the salats over. There's another grave. So if you would put a camera in the grave and you say, so what's happening? Why is there nothing going on? Where are all the worms? Where is the squeeze of the grave? Well, it's not happening to the body. It's happening to the spirit. And the spirit watches the burial. But then the spirit, the qabr, means barzakh. And so when Munkar and Nakir come, it's happening in Barzakh, the Barzakhi qabr. Not the fiqhi one. By fiqhi, I mean the jurisprudential one, the one of law, where everyone buries them and then they go on top and they do the talqeen, where they're reminding the person, Isma' ifham, La ilaha illallah. Are you still on the religion that you left us upon? Are you still upon that religion? Remember to tell them that Allah is your Lord, Muhammad is your Prophet, the Quran is your book, Mecca is your Qibla. Remember to tell them. But even if you were to act it out as ritual in this life, you can't lie in the next one. So if you do not truly emulate these teachings, you can't say them because you're lying. And you can't lie in the world of meaning, because it's a world of meaning. There's no more way to sin. And so you can only speak truth. So if you are not a true follower, you cannot answer those questions. So Munkar and Nakir tell him, write down your deeds in this Barzakhi grave. And he says, I have no pen. They say, use your finger and use your saliva as your ink and write upon your kafan. And he writes upon his kafan and they tie the kafan to him. And this is all happening in an immaterial sense. But when he is raised on the day of judgment, this is happening. But again, when they're doing the talqeen and reminding him, because he's still associated with his body, he hasn't completely separated yet, and they're trying to ease him into it. That's why you can imagine how much of a terrifying experience being cremated is, because he still thinks that's him, he's burning alive, he'd think. But then there's always a wise guy that says, what's happening in the grave if they just put me in the sea, or they burn me, or right? It's not a grave. Well, again, it's not a fiqhi grave we're talking about. Even if you were buried at sea, even if you were to be burnt, all these things will still happen to you. And Munkar and Nakir are still going to come to you. Because it's a Barzakhi grave. And so I'm leaving out many of the terrifying details because there are young people in the room. I don't want anyone to go and get nightmares tonight. But I will mention some of the more beautiful narrations after this one. Fatima bint Asad, the mother of Imam Ali alayhi salam, she herself used to fear the squeeze of the grave so much. This is the mother of Ali. This is his mom. Right, his mom. Imam Ali's mom is scared. She would tell the Prophet to please be with her when it comes to her death. When she did die, Imam Ali alayhi salam went to the Prophet, may Allah's blessings be upon him and his family, and he told him, my mother has died. And the Prophet said, no, my mother has died. And he took his shirt and he put the shirt in the grave with her. And he prayed to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to let the squeezing of the grave be easy on it, not the squeeze that we hear about. And he told her in the grave, as they were burying her, again he spoke. Just like he told her, your son, but not Ja'far or Aqil. Right? Later on they asked him, why did you do that? He said, well, because she was fearful of the grave, I put my shirt with her. And I told her, your son, but not Ja'far or Aqil, because the day of Ghadir had not come yet. And so when she was going to be asked, who is your Imam? He wants her to say, my son, but not Ja'far or Aqil. My son Ali. Sallallahu ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. And so there is this squeezing, this compression of your spirit, that if we are not saved by the time we enter the Barzakh, that we will go through. And no words can describe the pain, because the capacity of pain in that realm is greater than this realm. Likewise the pleasure. But if you are a believing man or woman, then you will meet beautiful creations when you go to that world. And the narrations say that a figure comes to you with a beautiful, handsome face of light, and you ask him, who are you? I've never seen you before in my life. He says, my name is Sa'id. That's what the narration says his name is. He says, who are you? He says, I am here to serve you until the day of Qiyamah. And there are 6 others that I have brought with me, and we are all by your side. So you have these angels with you. And the first one is at your head. And the one at your head is your wilaya for Muhammad wa Ali Muhammad. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad. First angel's with your head. And on your right side is another beautiful creation. And who is this? I am your salat. So if you are not performing your salat, this angel will not be by your side, so you will suffer in the Barzakh. Your salat is there as your guardian. These are the guardians of Barzakh. So your wilaya is guarding your head. Your salat is guarding your right. Khums is guarding your left. How many of us owe khums? How many of us don't pay the khums? In your front, a guardian appears. Who are you? I am your fasting. Guards your front. Behind you, your Hajj and Umrah. And at your feet, this is an interesting one. At your feet is the guardian of your relations with your family and people that you have interacted with in your life. So if your relations were full of envy and anger and dispute, where would that angel, that guardian be? If I did not have my prayers, if I was not fasting, if I owed zakat and khums, if I did not perform Hajj, all these guardians will not be there for me in Barzakh. But if you do, then you will be guarded. So right now you are building for this Barzakh that you're about to go to. But guys, just to make it very simple, I'm going to put it into a sentence. Whatever you are, that's what you will experience. It sounds deep, but really it's not. Think of yourself as a place. All those qualities you have within you, the beautiful and the ugly ones, that's what you're going to experience. Okay? So if you have worked upon yourself to become a beautiful person, you will have a beautiful experience. But if inside you still have those diseases that you have not gotten rid of, and I personally have a very sick heart, so I fear for myself what I'm about to experience. So we have to question ourselves. Question, what kind of person am I? Because am I scared to experience myself? That's the real question. If you're scared to experience yourself, then there's a problem. And you have to rectify that problem now. And there's no better time than these nights to rectify that problem. But ultimately, it's all here. Your heaven and your hell, it's all here. It is what you're going to make it to be. So it's in your hands. This is all in your hands. And this is your ultimate destiny. This is more important than everything else in your life right now. If you guys are seeing this majlis as a 10-day thing and you're coming just to pay your respects and you leave and life goes on the same, you've done nothing. If you cry for Imam Al-Hussein alayhi salam and you go on living your life still sinning, not having changed, it doesn't make a difference. You can cry until tomorrow. You have to apply the tears. The tears are very important. The tears are so important to revive your heart. But one who thinks that the tears are what are going to save me, and I don't have to apply this in my life is completely wrong. So this can't be a part-time thing, guys. It's not a part-time thing once a year, 10 days a year. This has to be something that's a priority in our lives. Not someone talking at you. Something that you have to reflect over. Because I'm on the journey with you guys. I'm trying to do this just like you. So it's something we have to internalize, all of us together, and help each other to make this a priority. Before everything else, every other priority that we are thinking of right now, this is number one. How will I escape a terrifying chastisement in the next world? Me and my family and my friends. And so have these guardians with you. It's in your hands to have these guardians with you. And those people that we love, that are in the Barzakh right now, if they were good people, then they are allowed to access us, but the pain that we go through is concealed from them, not to make them sad. Yet if it's a person with bad deeds, the pain is apparent to them. They see their loved ones going through pain. It's not concealed. And depending on who they were, they are allowed access. Some people are allowed once a week. Some spirits once a month. Some spirits once a year. And we don't know how long those years are in the next world. We don't know how long that time is. But the narrations say, Imam Ali alayhi salam is the one who says that. And the narrations say it happens usually on Friday or Thursday nights. So anyone here who has these lost ones that they love, welcome them on Thursday and Friday. Perform some acts of devotion and dedicate it to them. But this doesn't mean that you disconnect from their grave, because the spirit is always connected to where their body is still laying. So still go to that grave and read, because they enjoy it. It brings them pleasure. It brings them company. Someone came to their grave and they read Quran and they left some roses and they performed some dua. They feel that they have company. So the same way that we go ziyarah to see the imams, if we have parents living in other countries, it's not wrong for on Eid day to go to that country just to visit my mother or my father. In another country, in the grave, yes, in the grave they're dead, but they're actually alive. They're in Barzakh. And I want to go and I want to make them feel like they have company. So we still go, we still visit the graves. It's still important. Even though they can visit us, they can see us. Make them proud. Make those loved ones that we have lost proud. And so, a man once asked the Imam that my brother is living far away from me and I am fearful. What if he dies and we are separated and I am not with him before he dies? So the Imam says, don't worry. There is not one believer but that when they die, they are all resurrected in a place called Wadi Sallam, the Valley of Peace. And they sit in, it's as if I can see them now discussing in circles, halaqun, in circles, discussing amongst themselves. Now this Valley of Peace is, this Wadi Sallam is a place in Iraq called Wadi Sallam, outside Kufa, the outskirts of Kufa, near Imam Ali alayhi salam in Najaf. But there are different opinions on whether it's that Wadi Sallam on earth, because it's a spiritual plane. So that might not be it. And there's a place where evil souls call to in Hadramaut in Yemen. But this difference of opinion, is that really the place because of the physical and the spiritual? So just because someone is buried in Najaf or in Wadi Salam does not mean that they are safe. Because that is the world of meaning, as we have mentioned. And so, brothers and sisters, this is a lesson for all of us, myself first, to prepare accordingly for the Barzakh, so we can be of the people in the Barzakh that say Aqim as-Sa'ah, that are telling Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to hurry up and let us get to the Sa'ah, the day of resurrection. We can finally be at peace and we can finally go into the afterlife and finally live in eternal bliss if we are of the people of eternal bliss and not of the people of chastisement in Barzakh, and we are fearing for what's to come, and we are watching our family and our friends in this world go through pain and there's nothing that we can do about it, and it's no longer in our hands. Because as we said, your account is closed. Once you're there, you're only depending on the people that love you. You're depending on them to save you. There's no more that you can do. So let us do as much as we can whilst everything is still in our hands, so that we don't leave it to others to decide our fate. Because as Imam Ali alayhi salam said, be prepared because you have been marked for the departure. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Wa sallallahu ala Sayyidina Muhammad wa alihi at-tayyibin at-tahirin. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. اللهم صل على on the day of Ashura. The poets say that the Ahlul Kisa were all there. Imam Al-Hussein alayhi salam, Ali al-Akbar personified his grandfather, the Prophet of Allah. Sayyida Zainab took the place of Sayyida Fatima. Abu Fadl al-Abbas took the place of Ali. And a young boy took the place of Imam Al-Hassan, his young son Qasim. On the night before the 10th of Muharram, Imam Al-Hussein tells his companions, tomorrow you will all be martyred. Qasim asks, Ya Amma, will I be martyred as well? He said, my son Qasim, what do you think of death? He told him, uncle, to me it is sweeter than honey. But he didn't answer him. He didn't tell him yes or no. But what he did tell him was, my son Qasim, even Ali al-Asghar will be martyred tomorrow. When Qasim heard the news of his baby cousin being martyred, he began to cry and asked him, Uncle Hussein, will they come to the camps and kill baby Ali? He told him, no, my son, he will be in my arms outside the tent. He didn't want to tell Qasim what will happen to the tents after their martyrdom. And so the day came. Qasim kept asking for permission to go to the battlefield. And again the Imam would tell him, you are the remnant of my brother Hassan. I don't want you to go right now to the battlefield. When Qasim went back to his mother, she remembered a letter from Imam Al-Hassan. At a time of great difficulty, open up this letter. When Qasim opened the letter, joy filled his heart. My son Qasim, when the day comes, do not leave your uncle Abu Abdullah on his own. And so Qasim took the letter to his uncle Hussein. When Imam Al-Hussein opened the letter, it pierced his heart to see the handwriting of his brother, unmistakable for Imam Al-Hassan. He looked down to Qasim. He grabbed him by his shoulders and brought him to his chest. They hugged a final time before Qasim was to go to the battlefield. And so Qasim went back to his mother to say his goodbyes. As he prepared, he put on his battle armor. He told her, "Mother, is there anything you want from me before I go?" She told him, "Send my salams to your grandmother Fatima. Tell her I left my mother in Karbala. Oh, my mother, I will tell my grandmother Zahra. Is there anything else you want from me?" She said, "I have one more request." He asked her, "Anything, tell me." "One more time, Qasim, let me hear those words coming from your mouth. Yumma, ya Yumma. I want to hear you saying mother one last time. Goodbye, Yumma, ya Yumma." He said his goodbyes to Uncle Abbas. He said his goodbyes to Imam Al-Hussein. And the Imam had to hold Qasim up onto the horse. Qasim emulated his father in Karbala. He ran towards the battlefield screaming, "I am the son of Hassan." One after the other, this young boy would fight off the enemies of Allah. At one point, when he was off the horse, his shoes were unbuckled. As he leaned down, a man came from behind and struck down his sword on Qasim's head, splitting it open, the blood dripping down his face, and he called out, "Amma ya Hussein, alayka minni as-salam." All throughout Karbala, there are reports that when people would go down, they would say, "Ya Hussein, adrikni." When Abbas went down, "My brother, adrikni." But they all called out for the Imam once. But for Qasim, he kept calling out, "Ya Amma, adrikni. Ya Amma, adrikni." The horses were trampling him as he was still alive, and he would keep calling out, "Amma, adrikni." Qasim. But this time, he didn't go straight to Qasim. He went straight to his killer and killed him first. Then he came back to the young boy. He told him, you don't know how difficult it is for your uncle to see you call out for help. But there's nothing that he can do. So he took the broken arms of Qasim and he put them under his own arms, hugging his lifeless body, bringing the young man back to the tents. When Sayyida Zainab saw her nephew, she called out to the mother of Qasim, come and see your young boy, the pride of Bani Hashim. He has attained martyrdom. Inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un. لعن الله الظالمين إلى يوم القيامة. صلى الله عليه وسلم.